3 games for the Azkals. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. So, good thing we won against Singapore. That was the first time the Philippines won against Singapore since 1972.
Yep.
And then we drew Cambodia. That was, I mean, we won versus Singapore 2-0. And then we drew Cambodia. That's 0-0. And then we lost in a very, very, call this, peaceful, serene game against Lao or Laos. I mean, they say it's technically correct for both terms. So, honestly, I've been dumbfounded, especially for the Lao game. I mean, what happened there? I mean, the physicality. I've been reading a lot of tweets saying that Lao should start. We should organize a charity match versus Lao and our Philippine volcanoes, just to check who tackles better and harder. But anyway, Roy, first game, Cambodia versus Philippines.
Yep.
What do you think is? How did you feel that the Philippines played in that game?
Well, to be fair, it was disappointing for most people really watching the game. Cambodia at the time were 194th, I think, in the world. And to draw 0-0 was disappointing. You can make excuses to some degree in the sense that the pitch was terrible. You couldn't pass along that pitch. It was raining really hard for the second half, but really to not score against the team was disappointing. They did have chances, but they just lacked that bite up front. Same with the Laos game. They were able to create the chances, but they just couldn't put them away again.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the link between the attack and the midfield was really lacking for those 2 games. Coach, for the Cambodia game, what do you think was? I mean, what do you think should the Azkals have done instead, just to score? I mean, obviously we've dominated the game, but we lack the finishing touch. So, in your assessment, what do you think should the Azkals have done during that time?
Well, is it the first 45 minutes? I mean, yeah, the pitch was very, very bad, but we've all played on bad pitches. And what I was very, very disappointed in the first 45 minutes, slightly improved in the second half, was the ability to control and pass the ball. It wasn't there. We looked very, very lethargic, to the extent that I actually said at half time that the Philippines, the Azkals, we look like we're overtrained.
Yeah.
They looked very, very tired. They didn't have the sparkle, which would shown, you know, in quite a few games prior to that one. It looked very, very. We looked like we were progressing. The intensity, really, the passing. Yes, we were playing on better pitches, but you were looking forward to watching the Azkals play
exactly
as they've been playing sort of before. And the first 45 minutes, they were awful.
I think they were a bit sluggish, to be honest.
Sluggish,
slow,
lethargic,
very slow in terms of reaching for the ball. Phil, comes the second game. I mean, obviously, we felt the effect of Stefan Schrock coming in. Obviously, for me, man of the match was Schrock, providing the 2 assists that led to the 2 goals. Aside from Schrock, who do you think stepped up their games coming from the Cambodia game?
I mean, just to point on Stefan Schrock, he's probably head and shoulders the standout standout player. I mean, anyone playing in the Bundesliga that's coming to play in Southeast Asia is going to be that next level up. Personally, I didn't actually see the game, just read the reports, so it'd be a bit harsh for me to comment on individual players. But I know, Mick, you watched the game and.
Well, I find it very disappointing that, you know, we're talking about the link from midfield to Young Husband up front and Wolf. You know, if Mark Hartman plays in that midfield, that's some kind of a free role. I know there's issues and problems for whatever reason, but Mark Hartman is arguably the best passer of a football in the Philippines, in my opinion. So he creates, you know, one pass he creates. So that's disappointing from a personal standout point that Mark should be playing, and also Anton. You know, Anton. I think they're missing Anton at right back. I think Anton justifies inclusion. You know, even though he's probably, what is it, 42, 43 now. You know, he's probably reaching the twilight of his career. But Anton, you know, why is Anton not in the squad? You know, so I don't know the reasons for that, but it's disappointing not to see Mark, especially in there, and Del Rosario. I think still justifies inclusion.
That bit of spark or that bit of magic, you know, that can unlock a defence.
With Mark?
Yeah. That's
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's what you saw in Singapore with Schrock. That's what he gave to the team.
Schrock
He was
is a
able to
wonderful
give
player.
those balls over the top, the through balls that he could create.
Yeah.
They didn't have that in the other 2 games.
Yes.
The last thing
that was missing.
whilst
They
he
missed that
is a
creativity.
quality player, the last thing you want to be doing is wanting Stefan Schrock to be winning the ball
yes.
And
on the
And
edge
then
of his
suddenly-
area, but
yeah.
then in the final third as well, creating. Obviously, he's got that ability.
What was that game we first saw him when we watched it live? Was Sri Lanka?
Might have been Sri Lanka.
When he scored the screamer into the top corner.
Was it Kuwait?
Oh, Kuwait, that one.
Kuwait.
Yeah,
It was against
Kuwait,
Kuwait.
He was stunning. He was fantastic in that game as well. And where's Ott? Ott seems to be. What's happened to Ott?
Manny Ott, yeah.
What's happened to him?
Playing, they didn't let him go.
Oh, okay. I think he was missed as well. 'Cause
Yeah,
he's a nice footballer.
And that's one thing looking at the Azkals side. But for me also, I looked at the Singapore side that we won against. Obviously, Roy, we were lacking players, key players. I mean, for me, the obvious one is Alexander Duric. I've tweeted about it that if Alexander Duric actually played that game, the game would have been a lot different. And then I received a lot of flack about it. Like, why? I mean, my assessment for those who really want to know why I tweeted that is because if Duric was there, the defense and the midfield would come down a bit deeper, because of that threat. Because we all knew about Duric outrunning Rob Gear, a guy in his 40s outrunning a guy in his 30s, with a guy in his 30s closer to the ball. Yeah. And then beating.
I hope you're watching, Rob.
and I hope you're making it out. This one, and then beating seasoned English Premier League keeper on his near post.
Yeah, that was poor keeping.
So obviously, that's Coach Mick already. But anyway, for me that was a deal right there because obviously if Duric was there, or even the key players that they were missing 5.
Yeah,
you said there were 5, 6 players.
Yeah, they had a lot of knocks.
I think he's their talisman as well, and he makes them tick.
Yes.
Well, 6'3", 6'4".
So obviously,
Singapore started okay. They had the first chance with the ball over the top, and it was Ji Shai who shot straight at Everidge.
Yeah, he did.
If you have someone like Duric, if you have some quality striker there, he's going to put it away.
Yes.
And then straight away, Singapore are 1-up, and the game's changed completely.
Yes, that's one thing.
And you could argue with that maybe with the first game with the Azkals, and if they've got Phil, if he gets a chance, does he put it away?
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah.
So.
I mean that's coming for the Singapore game. So those who tweeted about, who
gave you a barrel of news.
That was my point of view. But lastly, for the Lao game, for me, the Philippines missed the finishing of Phil Youngasman, definitely.
Yeah.
For me, I really suggest that the Philippines get another striker because we have Dennis Wolf, yes, we have. Ian Araneta, yes, and then Paul Mulders was playing also at top, right? Attacking midfield, yeah. So it's really more of the passing game, but for being the potent striker that Phil is, there was no one to replace him. I think Wolf is really more of the feeder type of striker, a second striker rather than a finisher. I mean, how would you assess that game?
Wolf didn't have a great game, yeah.
He said that, not me.
Is anyone left that we haven't?
Through the lining. No, they didn't.
Lucky you never talk about nomads on it.
So go. You said Wolf didn't have a good game, so
he doesn't seem to. I don't know. His first touch sometimes lets him down, and he's set upon by the defence. A lot of times that's happened, and then the other times when he has had the clear-cut chances, he's put them wide. And their chances the strikers should be putting away at international level. Yeah. And to be fair, it's not acceptable at the international level to do that. He's only scored 1 goal against Malaysia. And if that form doesn't improve, then...
It was a header even, from a set piece, I think.
Yeah, and so if that form doesn't improve, then it'll be difficult. You're right, replacing Phil Younghusband is a very difficult task for the Philippines.
Yes.
And it's been a bit of a cliche before that the Azkals can't succeed without the Younghusband with us. But if they don't find another striker, then they're going to find it much more difficult to score any goals. I mean, it was Rob Gear who scored his first goal for the Azkals. And if you're relying on Rob Gear to score goals, then you'll be in a bit of trouble. He was all right in defence, to be fair. He did well in defence in the first 2 games. But yeah, you need a backup for Phil.
Yeah, I mean, just to close this this session, I mean, a lot of people also were tweeting that why did the Philippines schedule friendlies against lower ranked teams? This is why. This is why. Not just because those countries are
to be fair
lower.
with Laos as well, they were in the 170s until June, and they dropped 20 places simply because they've not played a game.
Yes.
When you looked at them as they played some good football. They were passing and moving well. They were forming the triangles. They were getting round the players, and they did it well with the youth system. Their average age was 21.4 or something like that. Very low, very low average age for the team. So they played really well. They're looking good, and they could really qualify for the Suzuki Cup in the qualification.
So people don't really rely on that ranking system to tell you that this team should be playing against this team. As what Roy mentioned last week, he was even dubious about the ranking of England.
Well, England are fourth.
I was just going to say actually, England haven't played football for about 63 years, and we're up to number 3 in the world. So that was the last time England played football.
We did manage to just beat Moldova 5-0. It was
comprehensive win.
Absolutely.
So anyway, for guys, just to again, this is why we play against these teams, because we believe that these teams can still give that challenge for us to learn.
Especially going away to them.
Cambodia gave that. Laos gave that, Laos gave that, especially not just in terms of skill, but also in terms of physicality.
I think just to put in what the Azkals are going to find now as well is when they go around Southeast Asia and play the likes of Laos, is that now that the money's coming in, there's a lot of Phil American or Phil Spanish, for example. People are going to look at the Azkals and think, we want to knock them off their perch. They're coming up. They're the new deal. So we're now not the underdogs. It's we're going to shoot you down. We're going to get into you. We're going to be more physical.
No longer the Azkals. Now we're
the top dog. The top dog.
Good.
So for more updates about your Philippine football, the Philippine Azkals, also the upcoming the Philippine Peace Cup.
Philippine Football Peace Cup.
Philippine Football Peace Cup, because I knew it as the Paulino Alcantara. And then suddenly they changed it again. So anyway, do follow us on Twitter at FTW Sports.